You need to get dressed. You coming with us.
Put the fucking gun
I'm not
down.
putting this gun. You need to calm your ass down and shut the fuck up.
We gonna go all the way downtown with a big ass gun in my face? In my face.
You gonna find
You gotta
out.
put it down sometime.
Never. Get dressed. Let's go.
Stupid motherfucker. Now, this person shot a woman I care for very much. Whose helmet is this?
Now get the fuck out of here. I've been waiting a long time for this. You are such a disgrace.
A loud phone ring broke the early morning silence, shattering the peace of a small apartment. It was Money calling with an urgent crisis. A local gym owner was routinely abusing his household, and the law wasn't stepping in. Pushing through his fatigue, Jackson headed straight to the man's training facility. Sizing up the guy's massive frame as he walked through the doors, he couldn't help but trade a few sarcastic remarks with Money over the line before hanging up. Business, however, was business. Jackson stepped up to spot the brute on the bench press, attempting to settle the matter over a friendly lift. But the moment the gym owner realized why Jackson was there, his temper flared instantly.
And my message is simple. Never hit her again.
He told Jackson he had no idea what went down behind closed doors and ordered him to get out while he was still able to walk. Realizing peace was no longer an option, Jackson slowly got to his feet. The gym owner threw a sudden punch, but Jackson was already ahead of the play, executing a sharp side kick that sent the man crashing down before unleashing a ruthless barrage of strikes. There was absolutely no excuse for taking out frustrations on family. This time, the bully stayed down. With the man thoroughly humbled, Jackson took a seat, demanding a strict guarantee that the domestic abuse would stop permanently. Once the promise was made, Jackson walked out into the morning air.
I'm sorry. I'll never do it again.
The following afternoon, he met Money at their usual lounge. Together, the duo operated an underground agency dedicated to clearing up situations the authorities couldn't touch. Money managed the incoming clientele, while Jackson served as the muscle, earning him the reputation of a professional troublemaker. This specific lounge doubled as their covert base of operations. Even during his downtime, Jackson kept the peace around the venue. While heading to the back, he caught two dealers cutting a dirty deal. He ordered them to clear out. One panicked and ran, while the other threw a reckless punch. It took only a handful of seconds for Jackson to pin him to the floor. After letting security handle the cleanup, he stepped back into the main room. That was where he spotted Sophia, his former flame. Walking over to her table, he noticed she didn't seem cold, and a warm conversation sparked between them. Jackson shared that since leaving the police force, he had been managing security for the establishment. Sophia explained she was there scouting the live band on stage, hoping to book them for an upcoming gala. The reunion was going smoothly until Sophia remembered her tight schedule. They agreed to catch up later.
I ain't gonna lie to you, Jax. I've always liked you.
But right as she went to leave, her phone buzzed with an incoming text from Jackson himself. Taking the hint, Jackson brought Sophia over to tour his new apartment. Sophia admired his interior taste, and upon spotting a wooden training dummy, she effortlessly executed a complex Wing Chun sequence. Surprised by her precision, Jackson asked where she learned the form, since he had never trained her in it. Sophia admitted her passion for the style had only grown after their split, leading her to seek out elite masters to sharpen her skills. Stepping into a fighting stance right in front of him, she challenged him to a quick exchange. What started as a disciplined sparring match quickly turned into playful physical contact, ultimately ending with the two of them under the sheets. The next morning, a violent pounding on the front door shattered their peace. Sophia had just gifted him a delicate porcelain artifact, but before he could even set it down, a black-clad hitman pointed a barrel at his chest, demanding he get dressed and move. A powerful corporate executive named Halen wanted an audience. Jackson refused, sparking a petty argument with the armed intruder. It was all a calculated distraction. Jackson disarmed the gunman, though the scuffle shattered Sophia's new porcelain gift. Hearing the commotion, a squad of heavily built enforcers rushed the room. Despite their imposing size, they were completely outmatched by Jackson's martial arts expertise and were systematically neutralized. Leaving instructions for the building manager to handle the mess, Jackson headed out to confront Halen face-to-face. Meanwhile, a chart-topping vocalist named Giari was wrapping up a grueling 5-hour recording session at the studio. Exhausted, she wanted nothing more than to go home. Her demanding manager pushed for one more take, but after a tense standoff, he backed down and let her leave. Stepping into her waiting sedan, Giari realized a stranger was behind the wheel. The replacement driver claimed her usual chauffeur had called in sick, assuring her he would handle the ride home safely. At that exact moment, Jackson slammed through the doors of Halen's executive suite. He dropped the shattered porcelain pieces onto the desk, demanding immediate reimbursement. The two had a long history, and Jackson knew sending armed thugs was just Halen's dramatic way of summoning him. Halen didn't blink, ordering his assistant to hand over $2,000 for the damage. He then revealed his true motive. His top-earning artist, Giari, had vanished without a trace, and he needed an elite tracker to locate her. When Jackson questioned why the authorities weren't involved, Halen explained his firm was preparing for an initial public offering. If investors sensed he lost control of his biggest star, the launch would collapse. Furthermore, Jackson had previously worked as Giari's personal security detail and knew her habits better than anyone. Halen suspected she had fallen back into dangerous crowds. Jackson's mission was to bypass the media radar and bring her back in one piece. After weighing the risks, Jackson accepted the contract. He demanded a $25,000 retainer up front, with an equal amount due upon delivery. Halen pulled the cash straight from his private safe. Still sensing a trap, Jackson stopped by the front desk to question the receptionist, Joanny, hoping for an insider lead on Giari's personal life. Being a loyal employee, Joanny kept her answers brief. Realizing he was pressing too hard, Jackson smoothed things over by leaving his card and offering to buy her dinner sometime. Later, Jackson returned to the lounge and pulled Money away from a group of patrons into the surveillance room. When Money asked what the emergency was, Jackson announced he needed to step away from daily operations, laying out the entire situation regarding the missing singer. Money was deeply concerned. Halen was notoriously corrupt, and Jackson's history with Giari was always messy. Jackson countered that the payout was too substantial to ignore, and more importantly, the girl was in genuine danger. Seeing his partner's resolve, before Jackson could dig deeper, an angry text arrived from Sophia. Ever since their reunion, Jackson had been ghosting her calls, pushing her patience to the limit. His attempt at an apology, a hasty delivery of flowers, only made things worse. Sophia felt sidelined, demanding better treatment. Jackson explained that his life had turned chaotic over the last 48 hours, eventually confessing that Halen had hired him for a recovery job. The mention of the singer made Sophia furious. She knew Jackson's history as her bodyguard and that Giari had even dedicated a track to him. Jackson begged her to understand it was strictly business, promising to fix everything once the job was done. Unmoved, Sophia walked away, leaving their relationship fractured. With no time to waste, Jackson shifted his focus entirely to the mission. He drove out to scout Gina's nightclub. Bypassing the security, he confronted the venue owner directly about the missing pop star. Though Gina initially took Jackson for a hostile intruder, he decided to host the conversation in his private office. Jackson laid out the facts. Giari was missing, and the label had contracted him to find her. Gina's defensive stance softened. He revealed that weeks prior, Giari confessed she wanted out of the industry's toxic environment to live a quiet life. When Gina claimed to know nothing more, Jackson pressured him to dial her number on the spot. Gina tried multiple times, but the calls went straight to voicemail. Recognizing the severity of the situation, Gina pulled a pair of firearms from his desk and insisted on joining the search. The duo rushed over to Giari's residence, finding the interior completely ransacked. While Gina panicked, searching the rooms frantically, Jackson spotted a discarded gala invitation in the wastebasket. He quietly pocketed the clue to map out his next move.
Get me to the weekend, all right? Look, trust me, it's what I do.
Using the invitation, Jackson infiltrated a high society event. Halen spotted him immediately, questioning his presence. Jackson lied, claiming he found the ticket at the apartment and was looking for leads. Their conversation was cut short when Halen left to pursue an influential woman in a crimson gown. Yuan Song, the elite financier backing Halen's firm, who was currently orchestrating the public stock offering. A moment later, Sophia intersected with Yuan Song. Seeing them talking, Jackson stepped in to greet his girlfriend. Maintaining social etiquette despite her anger, Sophia introduced Jackson to the financier. Yuan Song found Jackson intriguing, but he skipped the pleasantries, asking her point blank if she knew where Giari was hiding. Yuan Song claimed she had only met the vocalist once before, excusing herself. When Jackson tried to follow, her personal security detail stepped in his path.
Fang Lung now.
Deep in the venue's private corridors, Yuan Song berated her guards, warning them that their aggressive display toward Jackson was an embarrassment, threatening termination if it happened again. Back in the main hall, Sophia confronted Jackson. Tired of the evasions, she pulled him into an empty storage wing for a real conversation. Jackson laid it all bare. He had been in 5 brutal fights over the past 2 days, his regular career was gone, and he was keeping his distance solely to keep her out of the crosshairs. Sophia wasn't looking for protection. She scolded him for assuming she was weak, stating she was entirely willing to face the danger at his side. The breakthrough cleared away months of misunderstanding, and they left the venue entirely united. The peace was shattered the very next morning. As Jackson and Sophia stepped outside, an engine roared. Jackson snatched a nearby weapon and dropped a charging motorcycle assassin with a well-placed kick. When the rider's helmet cracked loose, Jackson recognized an unfamiliar face. He raised his weapon to finish the threat, but the chamber jammed, allowing the hitman to escape on foot. Turning back, Jackson found Sophia bleeding from a severe shoulder wound. He contacted emergency services and rushed her to the hospital. Seeing her hooked up to monitors filled him with pure rage. While pacing the hallways, Gina called for an update. Learning that Jackson was hitting a wall, Gina grew anxious. Jackson reminded him of their weekend deadline before asking for a specific tactical favor. Jackson then retrieved a hidden firearm from his cache and drove to an underground club. He marched in, tossing the assassin's cracked helmet onto the table, demanding the identity of the shooter who targeted his girlfriend. The local crew took it as a challenge and surrounded him. A second later, Jackson struck. He ended the melee by firing a warning shot into the ceiling, pinning the lead thug against the wall. Terrified, the gang member confessed the gear belonged to an elite mercenary operating out of the local park network who worked alongside a partner named Bruce Lee. Satisfied with the intel, Jackson departed, leaving the crew covered in the non-lethal paint rounds he had loaded to avoid a homicide charge. Jackson drove straight to Halen's headquarters, cornering the executive in his office. He demanded the truth, asking if the financier Yuan Song was behind the abduction. With a barrel to his chest, Halen broke down. His enterprise was drowning in debt, forcing him to accept high-interest loans from Yuan Song. When the payments came due, she abducted Giari as leverage, giving Halen a 5-day deadline to clear the balance or the singer would be executed. When Jackson asked what a financier gained from a dead pop star, Halen explained that Giari's catalog value would skyrocket posthumously, allowing Yuan Song to liquidate the assets for triple the value. Furthermore, once Yuan Song realized Jackson was tracking the singer, she ordered Halen to deploy contract killers to eliminate him. The puzzle pieces clicked. Halen had never wanted the singer found. Her death was his ticket out of debt. Disgusted by the corporate greed, Jackson drove around into Halen's leg, forcing him to surrender Yuan Song's hidden warehouse location. Later, Jackson arrived at the medical facility to find Gina keeping watch over Sophia. After checking on her recovery, Sophia admitted that seeing the violent reality of his life made her question if she could handle a future together. Jackson told her to focus on healing, promising to resolve the entire crisis by morning. Exiting the room, Jackson briefed Gina on the warehouse layout, drafting a coordinated infiltration plan for that evening.
I have a plan. It goes down tonight.
Simultaneously, Halen was receiving a brutal interrogation from Yuan Song's lead enforcer, Simon. Halen had intentionally hired local hitters to make the attempt on Jackson look like Yuan Song's doing, but the plan backfired when Jackson survived and tracked him down. Yuan Song demanded to know what Jackson knew. Halen kept silent to protect his remaining assets, and because of his outstanding debt, she spared his life, ordering her crew to dump him in the street. Under the cover of night, Jackson and Gina breached the perimeter of Yuan Song's industrial depot. They counted only a skeleton crew guarding Giari, but Jackson favored a stealthy approach to draw out the lookouts. Gina opted for a faster route, deploying a high-tensile zip line to reach the adjacent roof. Jackson followed, narrowly surviving a line failure to land on the platform. He dropped a tactical smoke canister through the ventilation, disorienting the interior guards. Right on cue, a heavy knock echoed at the front entrance. It was Money, disguised as a safety inspector demanding entry. His authoritative act forced the sentries to unlock the doors.
What's with all the firepower?
Mind your business.
Inside the confusion, Giari requested a restroom break. Seizing the opportunity, she ambushed her lone guard from behind and fled into the stairwell. Hearing footsteps, she ducked into a side room, unaware that the sounds belonged to Jackson and Gina. Discovering the unconscious guard, Jackson deduced Giari was on the move. He directed Gina to take the elevator down to secure the exit while he swept the upper tier. Downstairs, Simon discovered the escape and triggered the lockdown. As the elevator doors opened, Gina found himself staring down a barrel. Money intervened, claiming Gina was part of the inspection crew, but the guard didn't buy it. To create a diversion, Money severed a live gas line, forcing the guard to lower his weapon. When Gina arrogantly went to light a cigar, the guard knocked it away, prompting Gina to draw both firearms and demand the singer's location.
No, look, it's a gas leak.
Upstairs, Jackson located Giari and told her to stay hidden while he cleared a path. Downstairs, total chaos broke out when Money's dropped cigar ignited the leaking vapor, triggering the facility's automated fire alarms and forcing a mass scramble. On the secondary deck, Jackson found himself cut off by Simon and a second enforcer, Smiley. Jackson pulled his sidearm to end it quickly, but Smiley's sudden flank forced him into a brutal 2-on-1 melee. Outnumbered, Jackson was thrown to the floor,
You are such a disgrace.
and Simon fired a point-blank round. The bullet struck Jackson's smartphone, absorbing the lethal impact.
I'm damn sure she's safe. Jack got her out, bro.
Regaining his footing, Jackson grabbed Giari and used their remaining gear to slide down to the ground floor, joining Money and Gina as the facility burned. A furious Yuan Song arrived at the scene, wielding a blade as she threatened her failed enforcers. Following the extraction, Jackson ensured Giari was safe at the clinic.
Where's Riri?
Oh, he back at the club. Said he was meeting some piece there.
Jackson promised to infiltrate Halen's private safe to destroy the predatory agreement. Returning to Sophia's room, Jackson found her bed empty. A nurse confirmed she had checked out 30 minutes prior. Realizing Yuan Song had tracked her down, Jackson and Gina raced toward the corporate headquarters. Jackson called Joanny at the front desk, warning her to intercept Sophia before she reached the executive suite. When Sophia walked into the lobby, Joanny handed her the phone. Jackson revealed that Yuan Song was the mastermind behind the hitman. Realizing the danger, Sophia kept her composure, made an excuse to use the restroom, and bolted down the emergency exit. By the time Yuan Song's security realized she was gone, Sophia was already clear of the perimeter. Jackson and Gina stormed the parking garage, running straight into Yuan Song's entire assembled security force. They breached the upper levels, fighting room by room against endless waves of security. Sensing the collapse, Simon attempted to escort Yuan Song to the private elevators, but the gunfire forced them into a dead-end corridor right into Jackson's path. Jackson stood before the final two enforcers, casually noting that the earliest disciplined combat styles originated in Africa. Unimpressed, Simon and Smiley charged. Jackson dismantled their initial rush. Turning around, Jackson found Yuan Song standing alone. He urged her to surrender, pointing out that with Giari safe, the state would view the destruction as a... Joanny nodded toward the woman in the crimson gown, identifying her as
Faction War, allowing her to escape back to Asia. Yuan Song refused, triggering a hidden mechanism that left Joanny suspended over a lethal drop from the atrium ceiling. As Jackson rushed to secure the line, Yuan Song drew a blade, forcing him into a desperate duel while he held the rope with one hand. Just as Yuan Song went for a finishing blow, Sophia appeared, using a high-velocity fire hose to blast the financier through the glass window. With the threat ended, Sophia and Jackson pulled Joanny to safety.
Come on.
Exiting the building, Sophia and Jackson finally found common ground, realizing they could build a real future together. To wrap up the loose ends, Gina detonated the remaining corporate offices to erase any lingering evidence of the network's financial crimes, brushing off the destruction as a simple remodeling strategy. Gifting Jackson a new performance vehicle, Gina drove off to reunite with Giori,